Hello, hello. I hope everybody's doing well. So here we are wrapping up the research essay. That happened fast, didn't it? So I've met with a lot of you and have seen some good drafts. I've seen drafts in all stages of the process. You do have 6 days. It's due on Thursday, the 20th at noon. I'm going to talk about the rubric and checklist and show you what you have to do this week and talk about options for folks who either did not schedule their conferences or did not show up for their conferences, which is quite a lot of folks. I did set up 2 weeks of times and gave you all the 2-week span that high schools had spring breaks, because I know spring breaks tend to be a week long, so that folks could schedule in advance or after returning from their break. And a lot of people did not schedule or did not show up for the time that they had scheduled. So the feedback is important, and I strongly recommend that you get the draft reviewed. I'll talk later in the video about some potential options for folks who don't have an appointment scheduled with me. A few people did get appointments for next week early on because of conflicts. So for those of you that didn't, I'll talk about what will work there. So a few reminders. I've had a few of the same questions come through several times today. The research essay must be 4 to 6 pages plus your works cited page. So if you're including the works cited page in that count, that means you're looking at least a 5-page essay. Now, if you are struggling with length at all, that probably means you've missed some of the requirements. And it may also mean that you need to develop some areas more. And I talked about that with a lot of folks today and yesterday. There are times when maybe you need to bring in some more examples. Maybe you need to add some more evidence. There are a lot of ways that you can do that. So 25% of your grade comes from the basic elements of the paper and basic content. Remember that you need an appropriate title. It shouldn't be research paper. You need a good introduction to draw your reader in. And I talked about this, I think, in the last video a little bit, that you need to think of a hook, as they call it, a way to get the reader in. And if you're struggling with that, sometimes looking at what you write to, I call it writing to your introduction, what you write to in your conclusion, can be a good way to kind of circle back to the beginning. So maybe you give a scenario, maybe you provide some background information, maybe there's an interesting fact. There are a host of ways to get the reader's attention appropriately and draw them into your paper. Another strategy you can use is looking at your thesis statement and work backwards. What should come before that thesis statement? Then what should come before that? So those are all strategies that you can consider. You should have a solid thesis statement that clearly indicates your position. A few people have kind of forgotten that we're writing an argument here and have more informative papers. So make sure that there is a clearly stated argument. A good conclusion that ties up and reinforces the paper's message. A conclusion should leave your reader feeling like the paper is done. It shouldn't bring in new information out of nowhere. It shouldn't be an exact replica of your introduction. It should tie up any loose ends. It should make the reader have something to think about and not feel like they're waiting for you to finish talking about your topic. The paper should be well organized. Organization is going to look different for everybody based on what you're writing about, how you're approaching it, what kind of information you have. But your paragraphs should have a focused topic. You shouldn't jump around. If you feel like you have organization issues, I recommend doing what I call a reverse outline, where you look at your paper and you outline what you actually wrote, and then look at that outline and see if that organization makes sense. It can be really hard to figure out your organization when you're kind of looking at the whole paper. You get lost in the forest because of all those trees being in the way, right? So if you can kind of clear out some of the words and sentences that are cluttering up your mind, that can give you an opportunity to see how you've actually organized it. Well developed, just talked about that, topic sentences and staying on topic. All right. So then your argument, you should clearly explain the problem you're addressing or the situation that you're looking at, provide the background information that might be needed. You should present and argue your solution or your stance well. And again, that's going to look different for different folks. It depends on the evidence you have. It depends on how you have decided to organize this thing. You do need to consider and address your opposition. You have to look at those who are going to disagree with you and try to see things from their point of view and show why you're still right. And sometimes students will address the opposition and then just end the paper. You can't do that. You've got to come back and reinforce your argument. And avoid fallacies and focus on provable facts. Don't get lost in making grand statements. Don't get lost in any of the fallacies we looked at in the last unit. Make sure that you can back your claims with evidence and that you do that. Source use. You'll need your approved, varied, scholarly, reliable, substantial sources. Remember, you have to have at least 5. You need to include correct quotations, at least 2 short and 1 long blocked quotation. I copied the special quotes document from the resources section into this week's folder so that you can see an example of a block quote. You should include correct paraphrases, at least 2. I want to remind you that paraphrases still need to be cited, and a paraphrase should take the author's idea and put it fully into your own words. Source use is important. You need to make sure that you carefully quote, you carefully paraphrase, you carefully cite. You need to avoid plagiarism, and you need to credit people for their ideas. Sources should be introduced. So, if James is speaking, who is James? Make sure that your sources are appropriately cited in text. As I have reminded folks several times this week, your works cited page, what comes first in the works cited entry is what goes in the in-text citation. So if the article has an author, it will typically be the author's last name because that would be the first thing in the citation. If there is no author, it will be a shortened version of the title or whatever comes first. So when I see your in-text citation, I should be able to go to that works cited page and scan down the alphabetized list and put my finger on that. All right, remember to properly integrate your quotations in the text. No quote should float. A quote should not be by itself in a sentence. Sources are introduced, sources are properly cited in text, works cited page is correct, and every in-text citation should refer to it. If it's on the works cited page, it should be in the paper. If it's in the paper, it should be on the works cited page. All right, and then we get to style and grammar. Now, I've given some feedback on grammar and things in your essays, but remember, you need to proofread for all of that stuff before you turn in your final copy. Remember to follow the MLA formatting guidelines. If you don't submit an MLA formatted essay, I'm going to return it and you have to fix it. I need you to get this right. I've been giving feedback on it all semester. If you have questions about your MLA formatting, you need to get in touch with me early next week so that we can check in on it. Avoid first and second person where possible. Avoid contractions. Wherever you've got contractions, just go ahead and spell the words out. This is a formal writing assignment, so we're going to be on our best formal writing behavior. Avoid informality, text speech, repetition, spelling errors, and meaningless sentences. Please don't try to pad out your paper just by making sentences longer. We want to avoid wordiness. Please be concise in your writing. If you're struggling to meet the length requirement, again, you're probably missing one of the required things here, whether that's a source or some of the source material you have to use, or maybe you need to further develop your content. Avoid run-ons, fragments, and mixed sentence structure. Use commas, semicolons, apostrophes, and quotation marks correctly. Quotes and in-text citations should be punctuated correctly, and you should have sentence and paragraph level transitions. So essentially, this is where you're going to show me everything you've learned this semester, right? This is where you are going to show off that you know how to write a great academic essay. And you do. You've practiced this all semester. You know what to do. I know that some of you have some anxiety about this essay. You're going to be okay, all right? Just do the things, do them well. If you've met with me, you've gotten feedback from me. If you haven't, I strongly encourage you to figure that out really soon. My time is pretty limited this coming week, but we'll do the best we can. Also, remember you're required to use one of our you're required to have at least 2 uses of one of our campus resources, whether that's the online writing lab, the virtual writing center, the study hall. So use your resources and don't wait till the last minute. If you send them your essay on Wednesday, you're not going to have it back in time. Remember that part of this, just like the meetings with me, is to meet so that you get feedback and then have time to do something with it. So those of you who haven't met with me yet, we need to get it done on Monday if at all possible. So let's take a look at what we have this week in our folder, and then I'll talk about what to do if you haven't had your meeting with me yet. Where did you go? There you are. Sorry, I lost I lost my tab. I do that all the time, as you know. Okay. So I've got 2 hypothesis assignments for you in this week's folder. The first one is a draft suggestion annotation where I ask you to imagine a friend has come to you while drafting their essay and has gotten stuck early in the draft. I want you to provide 2 annotations of constructive feedback. Constructive feedback means criticism they can do something with, right? You don't just want to go, oh, that's bad. First of all, not the best way to approach it. They are already feeling down on themselves. They want to know what they need to do. So make a suggestion, not like, if something is unclear, this is unclear, perhaps you could try, right? So 2 annotations of constructive feedback, and at least one should be content related because the content is what matters the most. You can also elaborate on someone else's annotation if you would prefer to do that. So if somebody has maybe made a comment about something, you could say, oh yes, here's another idea about how you could approach it or something else. And then we have an essay annotation. It's a completed essay that was, it's on LibreText. It's a student essay written by 2 students in a college level class. It's very similar to the kind of research writing that you all are doing. So I want you to annotate that one with at least 1 comment about something specific that works well in the essay or could be improved. So the special quote example document that I told you about is here. It will show you how to do a block quote. It will show you how to handle what we call an indirect citation, which is when you quote someone else, quote someone who's quoting someone else, and when you have a quote inside a quote. The assignment is copied over here. The rubric and checklist is copied over here. The essay assignment is here. Make sure you are 100% done. It is a clean copy, correctly formatted for MLA. If it's not correctly formatted, it's coming right back to you. And what I get, if it's correctly formatted, will get graded. I will be trying to grade these as they come in this week so that you don't have to wait on your feedback. I know folks want to know the results of that essay as quickly as possible. And then your checkpoint, our standard checkpoint that we have every week. So that is what we have there. And I'm going to grab my calendar to see what I can do. So remember, I do have office hours. Always, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 11 to 11:50, and on Monday evening from 5 to 5:45. Now, I have some students who have already scheduled to see me during office hours and during some other times. So the times when I can see students on Monday, in addition to my office hours time, you can drop in between 4 and 5. Remember, you will need to send me a copy of your essay. You send me the Word document or share a Google Doc link with me because I will need to put comments on the essays and send them back to you. And Tuesday, available from 12:15 to 1. So that's what I have left right now, and I'll post that also on Blackboard. Those are the times that you can drop in outside office hours, and folks who have made appointments to meet with me during office hours do get their slot reserved during the office hours. So that is my best plan. If none of those times work for you, you need to get in touch with me so that we can figure out what to do, if anything, because we are just about out of time on the meetings. So if you need help or have questions, please get in touch as soon as you can. And you're almost there. This essay is the big one for this class. We've got some things to do, of course, afterwards, but this is your biggest project for the class. So give it your best, give it your all. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week, and I will see you again next week. Take care.